Hey guys, welcome back to Daniel's Balls, and today I'm going to be telling you how to pick the right substrate for your reptile. When picking a substrate for your reptile, you need to consider two things. One, what kind of reptile you have. It's a snake, lizard, stuff like that. Second, you need to consider the care requirements for that kind of reptile, like what humidity, what kind of heat. So for step one, I'm going to start off with snake. Let's say you have a pet snake and you're trying to figure out which kind of substrate is best for your snake. So if you have something like a corn snake, then your corn snake needs something that's drier and that it can dig in, and it gives it a lot of cover. So I would recommend using something like aspen bedding for a corn snake because it really holds the structure of the burrows for them. And aspen is really good for also other burrowing species like hognose snakes, and bull snakes need kind of like an arid environment also. So for snakes that require more like arid, drier, more digging, then aspen is a good situation for them. And if your snake is like a ball python or a boa that needs more humidity, a higher humidity in their environment, then something like a coconut husk or a coconut fiber or a coconut soil like Eco Earth, that's really good because it holds the humidity well and it's very natural. It's not the best for digging, so I wouldn't recommend it for a digging species, but if you have a species that needs a higher humidity, then something like a coconut substrate would be beneficial for them. So there are some other options for your snake that I don't have with me today because that's not what I use, but you can use another type of wood bedding for pretty much any species, and that's cypress. Cypress is really good because it's a little bit drier, but it can still do really well in a humid environment. And there's one that you want to avoid for all species, and that bedding is cedar. Cedar mulch is very toxic to most, if not all, species of snakes. So you really want to avoid that as a bedding. And another bedding that I would not avoid but not seek out is potting soil. You can probably use it. It probably would keep the enclosure very dirty, and it probably has some other unwanted stuff in it. But you can put it into like an ABG mix or some sort of setup that has like bioactive features, so you can mix it in with other things like bark and moss to make like a sort of cohesive mixed substrate for that type of enclosure. So one more that's like just the classic for all snakes would just be paper or paper towels. That can be really helpful for if you have like a lot of snakes and you can't afford to keep buying like really expensive reptile substrates like aspen, and maybe you have a rack system and it just doesn't work with your tubs. So paper is really good, and paper towels can hold humidity really well. And if you're quarantining an animal, let's say you just got a new animal and you're not sure if it has any sickness or any mites or something, you can put it on paper towels, and then you can monitor its stools, and if it has any mites, you can see it on the paper towel, so that makes it really easy. So now let's talk about lizards. Let's say you have a pet lizard, and that pet lizard is a desert species of lizard, like a bearded dragon, or a Eurymastix, or a leopard gecko, and you want to pick the right substrate for that animal. I would avoid using sand, but there are other alternatives, and you can use, for all of these desert species, you can use like a repticarpet or a reptile like carpet mat that goes on the bottom of the tank, and that's basically like a carpet that you can clean, and it's only one layer, so it doesn't have anywhere to dig. But if it's something like a bearded dragon that will bask a lot of the time, it's not that big of a deal. One option that I've seen for a Eurymastix, which is like a desert species of lizard, is millet. You can use millet grain, and they like to dig, so they can dig in that, and they can also eat it. and it's easy to sift and clean. Now let's talk about like a tropical species of lizard. So let's say you have something like a crested gecko, and that needs kind of like a humid tropical environment. So for that, you could use eco-earth, and since they're gonna be off of the ground most of the time, they're gonna be on branches or in leaves or on the side of the glass enclosure. You don't really need like something that special, so you could just use a little bit of eco-earth, and that's good because it can keep the humidity up. But it's also good to like have them lay their eggs in if they're gravid. So if you're making like a bioactive setup for a tropical gecko or a lizard, you can use like a ABG mix or something that has like moss and it's bark. It's like a mixture of all these different substrates, and that can help the bioactive enclosure because it helps drain water and it helps feed the microorganisms, and it's good for the reptile as well. So you can also use paper towels or paper for like a leopard gecko because it's easier to clean and they don't really require that much of a substrate, so you can use that as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I hope you guys are all staying safe with the coronavirus, and just be sure to wash your hands and social distancing if that's your thing. Then you can stay away from people, even if you already do that. But if you did like this video, then you can like this video down there, and subscribe if you want to see more content like this, more videos, educational videos about reptiles and how to care for them. I'll see you guys again soon. Bye.